I went to the Pursuit of Truth. So I was just watching Sky News about this cop26, and they were talking two cases. I saw one was in India where they were showing kids illegally mining coal, where there's a truck that pours the coal out and they rummage through it right next to it. It's very dangerous, and then they're burning it. And of course the fumes, will stick to your lungs, and it's very deadly. But the mother says, what am I going to do? I don't have extra clothes, so this is the only way I can keep them warm, by burning this coal. And some people collect it to sell it for like 50 rupees while they're putting their lives in danger. And there was one about Madagascar where they were showing people that are looking for little gems that end up in rings, and they sell them for nothing, but when they're on the rings they sell them for hundreds of pounds or dollars. And they go down this big tunnel, and there's got this big plastic tube to give them air, which runs out, and when the bag, because they're just pushing air down into this big hole in the ground. And these are just a few examples. And with this COP26, it's because of climate change, it's shown all these sufferings that are going on, that we know have been going on. It's not, anyone who's seen all these charity events that have happened has seen these scenes of distress and suffering of children and women and men in poorer countries that are made poor usually by the West when they offer them money, like the Kenyan delegate was saying in COP26. Was a really interesting speech he was giving, that I'll try and put links if I can, about whether this money is going to be a loan or it's going to be just given, or to help countries not to use greener technology and to not use coal and things like that are going to increase the problem. And it's probably going to be a loan, which is going to be interest, and it's going to keep them crippled. Like there's lots of charity that current governments and countries give to poorer countries, but they often attach loan to interest to them, so they always keep in that same situation of poverty. We see that with banks. That's the problem with the banking system and interest. That's why Islamically people don't like that idea, because if you have interest, and it's even in the Bible, I believe, even if the interest is always going to keep people in poverty, and money doesn't gain anything, it's the same. But the thing what I wanted to talk about is these little cases that have been shown because of this climate change thing, the floods, the suffering of humanity that's going on. It's been going on since time immemorial. We all know it's going on. We all know there's poorer countries. And it's just the fact that they're not solving this problem. The West obviously wants to solve the climate change because it's worried about its life, and that's why it's willing to go to all this trouble now. I suspect there's been a lot of money they're going to make out of these things as well. A lot of companies and interest and etc. in this technology, because it's everyone have to use it, so it's money to be made. But the real thing is the unnecessary suffering of humanity when we know it's going on. But why isn't that, climate change is important. The place that we live upon is important, but so are the people. When are we ever going to solve that problem of the suffering that goes on for these people every single day? Why isn't that ever? Why is there no meeting of world leaders to discuss that? To discuss why? Why is it that we have the knowledge? We have the knowledge of how to create infrastructure, how to have irrigation, how to have clean water, how to have good hospitals, good schools and all that. But even in the West, where we know how to have a good school, say like a private school, or say if that's the best school, we don't replicate that. We allow schools that are not as good to be replicated, and therefore education isn't balanced. Why do we play these games with our lives? What is the benefit of having this difference, this division? Of course it keeps, colonial or past old ways of looking at things. It was to keep power, to keep control, to be better than someone else, to have that power. But surely these days, why do we still want to cling to that kind of mentality? There is no benefit of having an education system that doesn't educate children at the good standard. If you know how to do it, why isn't it we're doing that with every school? If we know how to create schools and hospitals and roads and places to people to live, so they don't have to suffer, children don't have to die of cold or not having any food. We know all those things. What's to stop us from painting the same place everywhere so that everyone has that good equal life that they all deserve? How, when we die, if we believe in God and we believe in judgment, how do we defend that? How is that defense? I don't see how there is a defense for that, because we know, we've worked it out. We've seen, we've created, say, the West or England or America or wherever, where we see technology. People can talk through satellites, through internet, through broadband, and warm house with insulation and all that kind of stuff, and have food and stores and Tesco's and Sainsbury's or whoever, and have all these different things and all this luxury and all this good life. But someone else doesn't have that, just because where they're born, the toss of a coin, where their parents are born. And what stops this is money and the system that we live within, of division, of only seeing ourselves as in the little circle that we're in, rather than seeing the truth. Like I always say, that the only truth that we really have is that we're all human beings. If we were to go to another planet, we wouldn't create these divisions. So why are we allowing them here? Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.
I now see that Kenya seeks the floor, so I give the floor to Kenya.
Thank you very much, President. And let me join those who have already congratulated you for the manner in which you have conducted this COP, and also the previous activities and building consensus among ministers. And your leadership is outstanding, and we commend you for that. Secondly, President, today morning when I was coming here, I saw a signboard which I found quite profound. And it read, "If you want to know about climate change, ask your child." And I wondered exactly what that meant. President, that reminded me of the meeting we had with the youth in Milan, a group of youth from across the globe, 400 of them, who sat, discussed these matters that we have been discussing for the last 5 years, 6 years. And within 3 days, they have resolved all outstanding issues, including the ones that have detained us here for the last 2 weeks. And that I understood that. And also, I also understood the meaning of the saying that we, the current generations, the older generation, have not inherited the earth from our forefathers. We have borrowed it. It's on loan to us as trustees for our children and our children's children. But because of our greed, we have messed up the future of our kids and posterity. And I think we must be ashamed. And you remember, President, that the youth gave us the last chance. And the words very, very clearly were, "This is the last chance we give you to Glasgow, sort out your mess." President, I hope and pray that that exactly happens today, not tomorrow. I do not want myself to believe that, in fact, to extend to tomorrow will be a failure in itself. So let's be prepared ourselves to work around the remaining part of this day and ensure that we conclude these proceedings. Thirdly, President, Africa, Kenya, 1.5 for Africa and Kenya, and I speak on behalf of my country. I know my colleague will speak on behalf of the African group. For Kenya and Africa, 1.5 degrees is actually 3+ degrees centigrade. This is what we lived in. This is what our communities live through. And that is why in Kenya and in Africa, we cry, we bleed. We bleed when it rains, we cry when it doesn't rain. So for us, ambition, 1.5 is not a statistic. It is a matter of life and death. So we are quite aligned, and the African countries, Kenya included, have done their bit within the limited resources that is within their means. As we speak now, President, 2 million Kenyans are facing starvation, devastated by drought, lost their livestock, their crops, even wildlife, because of drought induced by climate change. So for us, we are aligned to 1.5. Now, President, ambition is not just mitigation. For us, as Kenya and as Africa, ambition is a three-legged stool, if I may. And that has to be seen as a package. Actually, we will add one. It is mitigation or emission reduction. It is adaptation. It is loss and damage, but it must be crowned on with means of implementation. Mr. President, we have given due consideration to your latest iteration on the cover decision, and it is a good improvement of what we had seen yesterday. And I am sure that whatever remains outstanding can be polished up in the next couple of hours. I think it is a good draft that we must adopt by the end of this evening. Mr. President, the issue of resources and means of implementation is absolutely critical for us. A number of our NDCs, and Africa and Kenya, countries in Africa, the first countries to submit their NDCs. It is important that the means of implementation in terms of, I see in your draft, President, the draft that you've submitted, the latest iteration, and quite happy about it, that we talk about adaptation finance. That's absolutely critical. And it's a little bit disappointing that we have been haggling about here over the share of proceeds in Article 6.2. I think it should be settled that the proceeds in Article 6.2 go to adaptation. And Article 6, the ambition in Article 6 is not ambition just for mitigation. It is also for adaptation. So we are a little bit disappointed, actually a lot disappointed, that we are still haggling about the share of proceeds. Similarly, we are a little disturbed. We're happy about the Santiago network and the launch of the proposal for establishment of the Santiago network and so on and so forth. But we are a little bit disappointed again that after hours and hours of negotiation, including last night until past midnight, the establishment of the Glasgow finance mechanism facility to finance loss and damage. What we see now, and it's reflected in your latest cover decision, is support for technical purposes. What we have in mind here is not giving money to consultants to fly around the globe to come and educate us, teach us about what loss and damage is, and prescribe to us a theoretical decisions. What we're talking about is a dedicated facility. And I hope, President, that before we could conclude today, our colleagues here see the sense in it. We are also quite disturbed and disappointed, Mr. President, that the special needs for Africa and circumstances has been dismissed even without giving us a chance to make our case. And we are not saying that Africa is special or be treated as specially, nor are we saying that any other region is not. We are saying give us a chance to demonstrate what we have been going through. In terms of, and this should be final, because I'm sure at the close we will make a more lengthy discussion, finance must be not just adequate and predictable, finance must be new and additional, and I don't see the principle of new, nor do I see the principle of additionality captured in the current cover decision. Nor, and finance must also be accessible, because that is where the problem also is. It takes roughly 2-3 years, and I'm sure to get any proposal approved by GEF and GCF. So accessibility is absolutely important, but more fundamentally, conditionality. We hear a lot about, oh yes, we have given this an amount as a country, and we appreciate all these, but then on what terms, on what conditions? So the issue about, are these concession grants, concessional loans, or these are overburdening our people? So, President, I think there is room here to conclude these, and we as the Kenya are prepared to do our bit, as I'm sure my colleague would say about Africa, but we also need trust. And I am quite happy to see that in your cover decision, and this should be the last point for now, in your last point, there is actually admission of regret that the pledge of 100 billion US dollars that was made more than 10 years ago, and it's been one excuse upon another, and now instead of 2020, now we are being told we have been presented with a delivery plan, 100 billion probably in 2023, and 500 billion by 2025. If that is supposed then to be encouragement, it is encouraging, but trust has been lost. We need much more to restore trust. And speaking for myself, from Kenya, our trust has been shattered. And I am quite happy to hear the words from the representative of the EU saying this: the major emitters bear the greatest responsibility. It is not just, it is not fair. And it cannot be fair that 20 countries that control 80% of the global GDP contribute 80% of the global greenhouse emissions. They have the means, they have the wherewithal. They are the ones that are pushing us, rightly, about more ambition in terms of mitigation, because that's how they interpret ambition. They must take their responsibility. And I think one of the recommendations that need to come and decisions here is those who, the major emitters, must resubmit their NDCs before COP27, align them, align them with 1.5. I thank you, President, for now, but I'll have, I'm sure, at the conclusion, because I am sure we'll have a conclusion today, I'll say much more. Thank you very much.
Thank Kenya for that intervention.